What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is March 18th, 2024, 4:06 in the afternoon. Before we get started on this video, I wanted to let you know that this month is the first quarter of the year that we're going to be doing our 50% off of the monthly membership, but you have to pay up front and for the annual, okay? Meaning it ends up being $50 a month. You just have to pay a year in advance. We're not going to sell any more than that. Just want to put it out there because most of you don't make it to the end of these videos, which is up to you, but you're also the ones who complain about how you missed the opportunity to take advantage of that code. So just putting it in the front. With that said, today was a pretty unexpected moving day in the morning, and then it flattened out and turned into a chart you should have walked away from for the majority of the day, I would say. And then the patience paid those who exercised patience if you chose to trade later in the day. We're going to talk about a few setups that we saw, a couple trades that we took, and we'll go over it like we always do. With that said, let's go ahead and launch chart and see what we got going on. So in pre-market today, I had to wait. I didn't have to wait. I started charting at 8:30. There wasn't much to chart. I mean, we picked up a pre-market high, mid and low lines here. Now I know that's not the pre-market low, yada, yada, yada. We've gone all over all of this and why I do what I do. But our first target outside of that range was this yellow line here. And then you had subsequent ones after that. And then we had, targets low from there. Market was pretty happy, gapped up over the weekend. And so naturally we were more interested in calls than puts. But as always, we have put and call scenarios that we talk about at 9:25 every day. So the put scenario was a move below 513.25, hoping to get to 512.86. We didn't hit that line until much, much later in the day. Got real close to it right here. The call scenario was a candle close, and this is important, a candle close above 514.03. Why a candle close versus a breach? This is a question that I answer constantly, but I'm going to answer it again because more and more people seem to ignore this part or don't understand why. So I'm going to do my best to explain it. If we had price action above this line that took part in pre-market, that happened in pre-market, then I am playing a breach of this line for the move up. If we had no price action take place above that line in pre-market, as we clearly did not, you have to wait for a candle close. Now, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to take this trade. You don't have to wait for a candle close. It's totally up to you. You could say, you know what, screw your call line, Jimmy. I'm going to buy puts there. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just telling you guys what I'm going to do. It's all that matters to me. But I also back up my expectations and why I do everything that I want to do too, which is kind of the benefit of joining a community. It's not to copy my trades, it's to understand why I'm interested in taking the trades that I'm interested in. Now, playing the open is very aggressive, but at this point, you guys know by now that if we're trending up and we're breaking through resistance, my expectation is that SPY is going to run up to the next resistance. Does it happen every single time? No, but it happens enough to be very successful for me. So I'll believe that it happens enough to take the trade and make my money. With that said, we got our first candle close on the opening candle right above that line. If you waited to get in right there, we pushed up. We got through our first target. We went to our second target. Now, a lot of people didn't take this trade. I mean, a lot of people did, but some people didn't, and that's fine. But what they did do, which I didn't because I was getting out of a trade, I was explaining why I don't want to hold on to this trade longer so that anybody who was wondering why I was taking my profits there could have a full understanding. Well, at that time on Qs, we were struggling to move higher. Okay, I believe this was at that same time, 9:35. No, 9:32. I was looking at all these wicks right here. These wicks were making me nervous, and we were at a line of resistance on the Qs. Told everybody, hey, I'm taking my profits here. I don't like what I'm seeing on the wicks. Now, admittedly, Qs pulled back, hit support, and took off from there. But guess what? SPY didn't really move much higher than that. Did I leave some money on the table by not calling the top? Of course. there's no way to do that. I mean, you could have waited till Qs hit the next line up, maybe, but I didn't like what I was seeing on the Qs, so I took myself out of the trade. That happened to be a 39.5% win. Beautiful trade. Could have been a one and done for me, but the reasons for getting out of this was a lot of people's justifications for getting into puts, okay? We were at resistance here. Qs at the time were not looking very strong as far as what they were printing now, okay? And ultimately, we rejected. Qs kept moving up, but what was ADD doing at this time? ADD was crashing through the floor, if I'm not mistaken, and that is what was counterbalancing the Qs that was moving up. So when SPY and when Qs and ADD are going in opposite directions, I will always, me personally, side with the Qs. Okay? If ADD is rocket shipping to the upside and Qs are plowing down, I'm going to look for the reason on the SPY chart to enter my trade, but it will be puts. I'm going to side with the Qs every time. Is it working? Does it work every time? No. But the problem is when Qs are going in one direction, especially strong, and SPY and ADD is going in the opposite direction, strong, I think the Qs ultimately end up winning, usually, but it's just a much slower, choppier ride, meaning we'd love to see nice, clean moves, like the Qs move after it found support here was pretty nice. I mean, higher lows, higher highs until it wasn't. And, you look at ADD and ADD was falling off a cliff at the same time. So this creates a slower, choppier run, albeit relatively clean looking on the chart. So, you've got to take into account. Now, when you're putting in higher lows and higher highs, at this time when we got out here, we hadn't established any trend other than a straight up move. That's not a trend. That's momentum. And then it pulls back and we find support and we make a higher high. Now you've got an uptrend. All right, so you could start buying pullbacks if you wanted to, pullbacks to support. But unfortunately, we're not trading the Qs, we're trading SPY. SPY was at a line of resistance. It was struggling to move higher. And so people jumped into their puts. Now, we talked about this because I was asked, and where would you, if you got into puts here, where's your stop? Where would your stop loss be, Jimmy? And I said a candle close above 514.72. Keep it tight. Keep it tight. Qs are moving up. If the Qs come down, it'll be a nice clean move to the downside, especially if ADD keeps pulling back. All right. So with that said, I was trying to help people stay into this trade longer. Finally, the Qs turn around. We make it through this line of support and right down. This is where we were hoping to get. We were talking about it the whole time. I said, I'd like to see 514.03 as a pullback. We closed below it here. I expected it to happen at that time. It didn't. Stop losses were in place. So if you're stopping out, you wait for the trade to come to fruition one way or the other, or you take yourself when you feel uncomfortable. It's okay. It's not my job to tell you how to trade and what to trade. It's my job to tell you or help you how to manage your trade if you're in it. So fortunately, quite a few people did take profits here. Quite a few people stopped themselves out with break even, and quite a few people took profits down here at our target. All right, but that's what we were aiming for. Now, while we were trading sideways here, we were talking about the idea of Qs, I'm sorry, to 956. What was happening at the Qs on 956? Qs looking heavy, just like I got out here for the wicks on top. I was interested in puts here because we have wicks on top and we were putting it in a downtrend. So I expect this support to fail this time. Okay. So I got into my second trade of the day right here. Wasn't looking for a big move. Wasn't looking for a long move because I don't hold through 10 o'clock. So fortunately, we got in here. We're touching our trend line. Qs look like they wanted to break support. And where are we looking to get out of this trade? Doesn't mean we're going down to the next line on SPY. It means when Qs get close to their next support, which was right here, 957. Okay, we knocked on that door quite a few times, couldn't get through it, and up we went. Okay, so that's the only two trades that I took today personally. We moved up from here. Now, I wasn't in this trade here because I was talking to somebody about something else at the time, helping them explain certain things. And, they were asking me more about what I saw at the top. I didn't see puts at the top because I was trying to explain why I was taking profits in the calls I was in. Listen, if you're not willing to hold calls longer for a good reason, then there might be a reason or an argument to say, well, shouldn't you just buy puts? And the answer is yes. So I was more explaining why I was taking profits there. They got into their puts up there for that reason. And then that was that. Now, I missed that particular trade. However, I felt there was at least some move left to the downside. We had broke the uptrend on the Qs. We were pushing through and trying to break through support here. Ultimately, based on these wicks here, I had enough feel goods to take it. Got in one candle sooner than actually Qs breaking, and it made it straight down to where we wanted to go. That was it. Now, to the upside here. This is not a call that I was talking about people getting into. I had a bunch of people asking, Jimmy, would you buy puts at this resistance? This is where we have to talk about something that's very important. Start asking yourself questions. And if you can come up with answers that lean more towards taking calls there, then take the calls. If those answers say, don't take calls here, and why you shouldn't buy puts here. This was a trade I was trying to keep people out of, right? This is one of those scenarios where you need to know what questions to ask yourself to avoid putting yourself in a trade that most likely won't work. So, Jimmy, would you buy puts here at this resistance? Jimmy, would you buy puts here at this resistance? I said, do this, guys. There are more reasons to avoid puts at this resistance than there are to take them. The only reason you would be interested in taking puts here, and it's a valid reason, is that we are rejecting that line pretty good. Okay? Now, at this time, what time was this exactly? 10:19, 10:18, 19. Okay. At this time, Qs were holding support. Okay, so now we're good. So the one reason to take puts here based on the SPY chart would be because we're rejecting. Now I'm going to give you all the reasons that I explained to everybody why I wouldn't play puts here. And I also didn't suggest calls. We're talking about calls because we were at resistance, okay? Let me explain. Why would you buy puts here? Because it rejected the last time it was here. It's struggling to reject here. Fine. It's 1 point to buy puts. Why wouldn't you buy puts here? We had broken the downtrend. We have put in 2 higher lows. Qs are sitting on support here, okay? Qs had reversed direction. They're moving up. ADD at the time was moving up. Okay, not great, but it was moving up. And NVIDIA at the time was starting to move up. Guys, there was way more reasons to not take puts there than there were to take puts. So thankfully, I don't think anybody got into puts there. Now, we have some aggressive traders. What I want people to understand, and we have discussed this several times on this channel, and we discuss it constantly in our group. What else is happening here? This is the bottle scenario, the bottle cap scenario we talk about all the time. What is the bottle cap scenario? Well, think of it like this. You've got a cup or a bottle, okay, with a lid on it or a screw-on cap. You're filling up the cup with water from the bottom. Okay, where is the pressure building? By filling it up from the bottom, I'm talking about higher lows. Okay, we're making higher lows, adding more and more water, building pressure, pressure, pressure. What is going to fail in that scenario? Usually, the top, the cap. Okay, so that's another reason I don't buy puts in an uptrend like this. The seller pressure on the buyers, the buying pressure on the sellers is increasing. That's what those higher lows are telling you. And usually, just like in a water bottle scenario, the cap is the failure point. Out the top, it's going to come right here. Okay. Now, I didn't take this trade because we were at resistance. And it was the high of day. I don't prefer to trade that way, but probabilities say that this particular move usually ends up coming out the top. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing works 100% of the time. I'm trying to teach you how to spot trades not worth taking. because we have a lot of counter trend traders out there that look at that chart and say, this looks like a good time to buy puts. I say, why? And along that questioning of why, you should be asking the same questions that I just asked to justify why you shouldn't. All right. Now, if you didn't take a trade there, there's nothing wrong with that. If you skipped out on puts, you saved yourself money. If you bought calls aggressively, congratulations. Okay. That's why that's a blue arrow there. It was not a suggested trade or a recommended trade. It wasn't a trade we talked about. It was why you should consider not taking puts there, because we had quite a few people wanting to buy puts there. Then we turned into a chart that was really less advantageous to trade. It wasn't fun. There was nothing happening. This is kind of what I expected the whole day to look like today. So I was very thankful to get these two moves out of the way early, because we have FOMC on Wednesday. I think the market is going to kind of be unsure about things until the Fed speaks. Personally, I don't think we're getting any rate cuts anytime soon. So I don't know. Maybe the market's already pricing that in. It doesn't matter. Things aren't great out there, but that's just my opinion. Just one guy's opinion. I don't play puts because I think the market's going to crash tomorrow. I just play what I see. And that's changed my trading significantly. Now, that said, what we did have is somebody who wanted to buy puts because we were moving down at this point. Fine. He decides he's going to buy puts at the bottom of this move to the downside. Don't ever buy puts at the bottom of the run, okay? Especially if you it's just, if you want to play puts, get in at the right time, okay? Wait for a level of support to get broken, number one. But you should always try and buy pullbacks on these trades, okay? Buying the bottom sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I know you're going to say, but Jimmy, you bought calls at the high of day. You're absolutely right. I am looking for volume. I don't look for volume, but I'm looking for the volume that comes with the morning trades to give me the momentum to propel me to my next target. I don't hold on to these trades for long. This was a 2-minute trade. Okay, a 2-minute trade with a 39.5% return on my money. I'll take that every single day. But more importantly, this will be the end of my trading day when I'm not teaching people in our community 6.5 years from now. This is what my workday will look like. In as soon as I can, out as soon as I get to my target, and I'm going to go enjoy my life. Rinse and repeat. I don't care to sit here and stare at this chart all day long. It doesn't make my life better. In fact, all it does is creates temptation for a reason to you to keep trading all day long. And I'll say it now, just like I said it again. Ain't a single person out there that can tell me with confidence that the more they trade on a given day, the better their win rate gets. Been doing this for over 3 years now. I have yet to find one person that has told me that that's inaccurate information. So I'm trading my own beliefs. I'm going to get in. I'm going to assume that I did a good job. I'm going to get paid for my job, and then I'm going to leave work. Thanks, boss. Have a good day. All right. Now, what we were explaining to this gentleman here, you know who you are, by the way, is, man, wait for a pullback. Wait for a pullback. Wait for a pullback. Look for confirmation, not only on SPY, but Qs and anything else that's out there. Okay. So I would like 514.65. Okay, now what makes this trade a little bit more hairy, a little more risky, was the fact that we put in a higher low. It's typically not good for puts. However, because I was trying to explain to this gentleman where would have been the best point based on this at the time was a pullback to 514.65. Make sure the Qs are at or near a resistance. So at 11.22, I think Qs were pushing up against a trend line. No, they were very close to a resistance. Okay. And it's at this time that we said, hey, if Qs close above 439.83, you're going to want to stop out of that trade. Otherwise, we want it to stay below that trend line. Okay. So we entered here. Our stop loss got to be very tight on this trade. Candle close above this right here. Old support turned resistance. We close above 514.75. You get out of the trade. You're talking about a 10-cent stop loss. Not only did we not close above it, not a single wick even touched it. And we were looking for the move down to our original 514.03 line. Simple. Didn't happen very quickly, but ultimately, all the things on the Qs stayed true. We stayed below the trend line. We were breaking down, putting in lower highs, lower lows. And SPY ultimately followed. Now, Jimmy, what are all these puts, these here for? Because I look at this two different ways. You have aggressive traders and you've got conservative traders. Okay, these arrows go from more aggressive to most conservative. Enter here on a pullback. Why is this an aggressive trade? Because we're coming off a higher low. Why is this a less aggressive trade, but still slightly aggressive? Because yes, we closed below support. Qs were still doing what we needed them to, but you also had a support right here on SPY. Okay. So the more conservative would be wait for a candle close below that. Make sure your Qs are still doing what they're supposed to. And we're looking for the next target down. So you had 3 opportunities for a trade here. All 3 would have paid a little bit different. Okay. And they all worked. Likewise, we pulled back during a downtrend. You got in here. Where's your stop loss? A candle close above this old support, 514.52. Now we got really close and this was really uncomfortable for some people, understandably, but it held. We made it right back down to support. Okay. Now, shortly thereafter, I went ahead and took my lunch breaks. I didn't do a whole bunch during that time. Very, very slow moves. Now this resistance here also lined up with a big Q's resistance somewhere, yeah, up here, 238 or 228, 238 right here. So Q's were having a hard time moving up there. Now at this point, everybody's saying, Jimmy, when would you buy puts again? When would you buy puts again? Would you buy them if we breached our put line at 513.25, which I had answered this way back here earlier. We never breached it. But as we were moving down like this, Jimmy, would you buy puts if we breach it? I said, 2 criteria, just like I always do, especially this late in the day. Number 1, SPY needs to be below 513.25, our original put line. That criteria is met here at 242. Qs need to be below 437.90. That's why there's an alert there. Criteria number 2 was not met. Okay. And more importantly, yes, SPY was breaching support at the moment. Qs was holding support at the moment. Not a good time to take a trade. However, both criteria were true right here at 352. So if you waited until that beep went off, SPY was below their put line, Qs was below its. Congratulations. You got to make a nice quick move to the downside. Even if you got in at 513, we ended up making it all the way down to 512.45. Okay. 50, 60, 70 cent move. That's not a bad move happening in just a few minutes. All right. So there was your last trade of the day. Now, why would you have gotten out down there instead of here? Well, in moves like this late in the day, guys, you got to trail your stops. Not only that, Qs was giving you a little bit of some insight that it was starting to struggle to move lower. So you could have looked at this as a reason to take your profits. Either way, it was a trade that if you took it, you made some money. It was quick and it was very, very late in the day. Not my cup of tea. But that's pretty much it, guys. I got nothing else. It was a pretty rough day for some folks. Our poll is fantastic right now. I think we've got about 35 red and 160 green. I'll take that any day of the week. And just for those of you who are out there in our community, just want you guys to know you're absolutely crushing it. We've been setting records and you've been doing great. So congratulate yourselves, pat yourselves on the back, and yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Hope you guys found some useful information in this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I would appreciate it. If you'd like to join our Discord community, there's a link down below. We'd love to have you. First week's completely free. As soon as you show up, you have 7 days of unfeathered access. You can come in to the rooms. You can do just about everything that we have to offer. If you like what you get for those 7 days, please consider becoming a paying member. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you all had a fantastic day. Till tomorrow, I love you guys. See you.